Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of a retrospect here because apparently even the mainstream box office media are starting to come to a realization that it's not just Spider-Man No Way Home that was breaking narratives at the box office, specifically the domestic box office, but actually Venom, Let There Be Carnage was yet another one of these examples, which though it did not reach the same levels, of course, in the international marketplace, which makes a little bit more sense, especially since crazy places overseas were on literally full lockdown measure as compared to the still crazy lockdown measures here in the United States, but it is still an indication that people, when given the opportunity to actually go to a theater, were taking it for films that seemed interesting to them, for films that seemed like they were going to be provided for with an escape. And of course, in the case of Spider-Man No Way Home, a film that seem to be giving fans exactly what they wanted. I think there's an argument to be made that Venom 2, Venom Let There Be Carnage, doesn't really exactly do that. However, it does give a 90-minute thrill ride that a lot of people were able to just sit back and enjoy, right? The dumb fun of the film. While, of course, there are many others who said, yeah, it's still not a good movie. And I think that there's an argument to be made on both sides of the coin there. But the main point, of course, is still made money. It still made massive profits, and it still made just about as much as the original Venom film did domestically. We'll go ahead and dive into those numbers and talk about why it is that this article and this headline, just like so many other from Deadline, don't always tell the full story. So before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you I'm sure heard at the very beginning, I am joined once again by the Hounds of Asgard, River and Willow, as they are fighting. My girls always fighting. We actually just got them some collars from some friends who make dog collars, actually, for the houses that they're in. For any Harry Potter fans, my wife's a huge Harry Potter fan. The books, not the movies. And we've pretty much determined that River is absolutely a Slytherin, while Willow is clearly a Hufflepuff. And so it's been fun to see them fight and duel it out. But let's go ahead and dive into the news. Venom Let There Be Carnage passes the domestic box office of the first film. More proof there's movie-going during pandemic. Really, more proof. From the same fear-mongering box office who were so willing to say, well, the pandemic and the coof makes people afraid to go out to see the movies. Well, I guess it really just depends on the movie, doesn't it? And again, when the case with Spider-Man No Way Home, I talked about that movie a lot on the channel, and some people have kind of gotten grated by that. But it is still, I think, a very big blow to this narrative that has been pushed down everyone's throats. It goes to show you that countless numbers of people, in fact, will go out to see a film multiple times, and there is not really a fear there of people as far as going to the movies are concerned for a big chunk of people. The issue at hand, and this is something that I've said from pretty much the very beginning, and this is something that's been a problem even before the pandemic, is that Hollywood is not creating movies, for the most part, that people actually either, one, want to see, or two, are even really worth seeing in the first place. And so Venom Let There Be Carnage is kind of in this weird middle ground, because most people, I think, who's honest with themselves would say that Venom Let There Be Carnage is just not that good of a film, right? It has a lot of narrative issues there. The story is quite rushed. As I said, it's a 90-minute film. However, my own movie-going experience was filled with just, a lot of fun. It was filled with a very reactive crowd who are reacting to a lot of things. It's kind of similar in certain ways to the Spider-Man No Way Home screening I went to go see, where people were just, again, responding to all of these different moments, and again, that's something that I think can be fun for films like this. It can get annoying from time to time. I know some people don't like that happening, but I feel like when there is stuff going on screen and the reactions are happening at appropriate moments and they dissipate very, very quickly, it can actually make the experience a bit more fun. And that was my own personal experience with Venom Let There Be Carnage. I thought the movie was not very good. I did not think the film was very well made. CGI made me cringe a lot, but at the end of the day, I still was able to have a lot of fun with it, and apparently a lot of people domestically were able to have a lot of fun with it as well. So as you can see, this film has matched that of the original film, pre-pandemic release. So this is yet another key piece, another key example that domestically people were willing, because remember, this film came out long before Spider-Man No Way Home did. So we have two films separated by months of time, showing that people are willing to actually go and see it. So much so that as many people who saw the first film domestically saw this film, or at least very, very close to it when you adjust it for inflation. So let's dive into this actual article. It says, more bragging rights for Sony. A studio dedicated to the theatrical window and distributor of the highest grossing movie of the pandemic, Spider-Man No Way Home, their Marvel sequel, Venom Let There Be Carnage, now counts at $213.5 million at the domestic box office, clicking past the 2018 first title of $213.515 million. So, as you can see, they are trying to say, oh yeah, it passed it by just a little bit. Here is the issue, of course. It does not adjust for inflation. I still have someone in my comment section who continues to try and say, inflation doesn't matter. No one cares about inflation. Well, it kind of does matter. It kind of matters a great deal. You can't just compare two films from two different times and not take into account the value of that dollar, because it does help to indicate also the number of people going to see said film as well. Since we don't have actual ticket sales, since we don't have the actual ticket numbers themselves, inflation is the best thing that we got. So this is something that I remember talking about when it first came out, right? Venom Let There Be Carnage came out in October. Right, in the midst of the pandemic still, right? Lockdown still being talked about, just like Spider-Man No Way Home was in the midst of the Omicron variant, and yet Spider-Man No Way Home made a lot of money. Venom Let There Be Carnage made $10 million more in its opening weekend than the original Venom did, even when you adjust for inflation. And notice here the domestic numbers. Even though the original Venom did make more domestically, with $214.6 million when adjusted for inflation, Venom Let There Be Carnage is right there behind it at $213.5. So I think that the gist of the article being presented by Deadline, the main idea, the main point, I think, is accurate to say that people are going to see films. And again, in the United States, we've had a lot of restrictions in various states. We've had a lot of issues going on. And even in the midst of that, this film was able to make as much domestically, essentially as much domestically as the original film without a pandemic. That, to me, should spell a pretty clear sign to Hollywood that, guess what? People want to go see films. People want to go see films that they feel like are worth going to see. And whether or not Venom 2 is good or not, obviously that's going to be up to your own personal view, up to your own personal opinion. What we do understand is that when film studios continue to push their films back and back and back, what really I feel like they're doing is they're making interest in those films wane so much over time that even when they do eventually release them, so many more people will have said, okay, I gave up on this. I'll just wait for it to come out on home video, because why would I want to invest any excitement towards something that I've already invested so much time of excitement towards just to have those hopes dashed? I know that I felt that way for Top Gun 2. It's been my most anticipated film now for it seems like 3 different years going on at this point. And yet I still have my excitement, but I can imagine that some people who may have had initial excitement for Top Gun 2 after so many years now of it being delayed might say, yeah, you know what? I don't care about it as much. I'll just wait for it to come out on home video. I'll just wait for it to come out on HBO Max, Netflix, wherever it is that's going to come out. And that totally makes sense to me. And that's, again, I think the biggest problem with all of this. What this shows us, right? What Venom 2, Venom Let There Be Carnage shows us, what Spider-Man No Way Home shows us is that, no. People want to go see films. There is not that sense of fear. If you allow theaters to be open, and again, this is the reason why you see such a discrepancy between the international numbers here for Venom Let There Be Carnage, 288 versus 643, because Venom Let There Be Carnage couldn't really play anywhere overseas during this time. Keep in mind, the UK was still on, major lockdown restriction and restrictive measures. Australia, of course, major restrictive measures. Europe, mainland Europe, many restrictive measures, right? Vaccine passports, all this other nonsense. So it makes a lot of sense then that you would have, again, if people are willing to live with that, because again, a large portion of those populations were totally fine with just going along. Right? Going along with whatever the government told them to do. And so it makes sense then that they would be the same people that would say, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to go to a movie, even though I've got these protections. I'm not going to go because I'm afraid. It makes sense that they would also be the same people that would be afraid in some capacity. But again, I feel like this is an important thing to talk about. I think this is an important metric to make, because Spider-Man No Way Home, though this is a narrative breaker, Venom Let There Be Carnage, Venom 2, I think also is a very clear narrative breaker as well. It already broke the narrative when it had a massive opening weekend, and it's continuing to break the narrative by the fact that it is almost exactly where the first Venom film was. It didn't make less, it didn't make more. It made just the same amount. And again, this is in the midst of theaters being closed. This is in the midst of fear-mongering by the same media that's now trying to say, oh yeah, well, more proof people are going to see it during the pandemic, which has been said for months now on this channel. But anyway, just want to share this bit of news because I think it is a sign, maybe, that the media is starting to turn course. We'll of course wait and see exactly how far that goes and exactly what kind of narratives they start to spin going forward. It's just important just to know that the narratives that they have been spinning, the fear that they have been spinning, again, doesn't really come into account when you allow people, when you actually give people access to films, whether the films be good or not. People want an escape. People love escapism. And that's why you have films like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and why you have films like Spider-Man No Way Home, 2 Sony properties, by the way, doing so incredibly well. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Do you think Venom, Let There Be Carnage is another example of a narrative being broken? I personally think that it is. When you compare this film to just how well it's doing, especially further down the line compared to the other film, I think it is very interesting to see how all of these numbers play out the way that they do. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. Also, I want to give a huge shout out, of course, to 2 of my newest Patreon members, Jaimir Ari Hymason and Jonathan. And also a shout out to a Hollywood actress that is actually standing up for freedom, Evangeline Lilly. Shout out to you. Good woman. Anyway, you all are great. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer the Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, and Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribe Star, or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size. Let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.